Hello there. I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong session.
Hi, Eric. It's Stacy. Yep, you are scheduled for tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Oh, I've got it on the wrong day.
No
Go
worries.
figure. All right, well, I'll just move it over in my Outlook and I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, fantastic. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye. Good luck. Thank you.
Perfect. And to everybody that's in the session right now, if you just want to give us maybe one more minute just to see if we get last minute people that are joining, but we'll get started in, again, just another minute. Well, I will go ahead and kind of start with the introduction piece, and then if anyone kind of pops in, that's also okay. So hello, everybody. My name is Jackie Patone, and I will be moderating the panel, and I'll kind of go ahead and introduce them in a little bit. But I do want you all to know that this session is also camera optional. So if you're not comfortable with your camera on, you don't have to have it on. But of course, if you want to have it on, I think that's great as well. We just want all of you to feel comfortable and feel like you're able to engage the way that you would like to. Please keep your mics muted for the panel portion, just in case there's background noise or static, or I know me, I have a dog, which he's not here right now, but just in general, sometimes he likes to pop into my Zoom meetings. But if you do have questions or comments kind of throughout, please feel free to utilize the chat feature. We do have someone that is going to be moderating the chat, Darby, which is in my left-hand corner right now. She'll be kind of moderating the chat as well. So just know if you do have questions throughout, we hopefully can address them. And then also, within that, there'll be about 30 minutes or roughly 25 minutes now of asking the panelists questions. But at the end, we'll have about 15 minutes for all of you to join different breakout rooms with each one of our panelists. So if you're interested in one of the organizations, or if you have specific questions, or if you just want to get to know them a little bit more, you will have that opportunity towards the end of the session for the last 15 minutes. And you all can actually choose which sessions or which people you would like to chat with a little bit further. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists, which are featured on the screen. So the first person I want to highlight is Selena. She is a behavioral health technician with the Autism Society of North Carolina. Also, her undergraduate degrees were in Spanish and psychology, and also has a master's in Spanish and Spanish teacher education. And we're also excited to announce that she is a two-time UNCW alumni. And then next we have Helena, who is a regional staffing specialist with the Autism Society of North Carolina as well. So you'll get a little different perspective there. And then also has a bachelor's in history and education with a concentration in special education. And then last but not least, we have Susan Sellers, who is the supervisor of certified talent management with New Hanover County Schools. Her undergraduate degrees were in secondary English education, and then a master's degree in school administration, and then also a two-time UNCW alumni, which is really exciting. We love seeing our alumni coming back to our events because we know obviously UNCW is great. But with that, I will go ahead and start with the first question. And this one, everyone will answer, but we'll go ahead and start with you, Susan. If you could tell us a little bit about your organization and your role, and then maybe what a typical day looks like for some of those positions that you recruit for.
Okay, so New Hanover County Schools, and that is all of the public schools in New Hanover County or Wilmington, 42 schools now. pre-K through grade 13. Really, if you've never heard of that, some of our early colleges go to grade 13 and graduate with an associate's degree. I was a former teacher, coach, principal, and landed in human resources for New Hanover County Schools about 3 years ago. So, my title is a mouthful, but basically I hire certified personnel. In the school system, there are classified personnel and certified personnel. And so I have a counterpart for classified, but certified is basically anybody that requires a teaching certificate from the state of North Carolina. So that's your teachers, your guidance counselors, media specialists, things like that. And classified positions are everything else that make the world go round in education, like the receptionist and the custodian and the teacher assistant and those wonderful, valuable people as well. But I hire the certified folks for our county.
Great, thank you. And then the next person will have to answer this question will be Helena. So just a little bit about your organization and your role and what a typical day looks like for the positions that you may recruit for.
Yes, the Autism Society of North Carolina is the #1 agency that serves people with autism exclusively and their families. We don't only offer services, we also offer support through our transitions program for our participants, and we also have family chapters throughout the state. And what I do, the positions I hire for typically are for after school positions, our summer camp positions. We also have community and in-home positions. And then we also run a summer camp. So those keep me pretty busy year round. We just started a transition program here in the Wilmington office, and that's great. It's for participants 16 to the age of 26, and it really helps with socialization, job readiness, and those types of things.
Great, thank you. And then Selena, you are up.
So I also work for the Autism Society, but I work in a more close contact area with clients. So I'm a behavioral health technician and I perform applied behavior analysis therapy, ABA therapy, under the supervision of a behavior analyst psychologist. And so my typical day, I go to a kid's house since we're in COVID. Previously, I would have gone to the Autism Society and I work with younger kids, typically around the age of 6 or 7, in developing social skills, like Helena mentioned, learning how to play with others, share, and then learning like calming techniques. And so that's my role.
Great, thank you. And just to kind of, I guess I'll start with you, Selena, just because it's kind of, I think is a great segue, is what is your favorite part about your job? And then maybe something that might not be as glamorous about your position.
My favorite part is getting to see how my kids progress, getting to see like when they start to get frustrated, they take a deep breath, and something that we like have to work on very specifically, or if I ask them if I can borrow their toys whenever they just hand it over without arguing, getting to see that growth, that's definitely the best part. Plus, most of them are really sweet and kind and funny. The worst part, or maybe my not so favorite parts of the job, are whenever you're working through those tantrums, because you're either establishing a connection with them still, or they just haven't had the practice with whatever program you're running. And then there can be some pretty aggressive behaviors depending on the severity of the lack of the kids' skills. So if they really struggle with that emotional regulation, then there have been times where I've been slightly injured, but they do learn techniques to get past that. So, and when you sign up for the job, that is something that you could experience.
Okay, great, thank you. And then on to you, Susan. What do you think is the your favorite part about your job, and then maybe just about the teaching profession in general, because I know you mentioned you had a pretty extensive history with teaching. And then same thing with what might not be as glamorous with the teaching profession.
So yeah, what I love about my current job is recruiting and hiring. And a lot of that is with, now that I'm old, I call baby teachers, that are just graduating and still have so much passion to come in and change the world. Unfortunately, education is a challenging profession. You should know, students that are listening, no matter what you choose, there are going to be pros and cons and challenges and rewards to whatever profession that may be. But recruiting and hiring right now is my favorite thing. My favorite thing about teaching was students. I think if you're interested in going into classroom teaching, it's very important that you like children. And I say that in jest, but I also say it in all seriousness, because you can't just love math and be a great math teacher. That's part of it. But you gotta like kids as well. And you don't get to really pick and choose who you like, unfortunately. So yeah, kids and coaching, and I coached volleyball, softball, basketball. So this is a different level of connection with high school kid in those terms. And then for principal, I was at an elementary school and absolutely loved that. Pre-COVID, there's no amount of hugs that you get every day and that sort of thing. But we do have the tantrums, sometimes as well, and teaching emotional regulation even to children that are not technically disabled. The least favorite part of my job right now. So I recruit through job fairs and university visits, and then hire and then support through the beginning teacher support program for the first 3 years. But then also employee discipline falls under me in some regards. And so, it's one thing to discipline a child and a totally different thing to discipline an adult. That's probably my least favorite.
Great, thank you.
And the fact that I don't work with kids anymore. I think I play an important role hiring the right people to put in front of kids in all of our schools across the district. But I do miss that personal connection to them myself.
Great, thank you. I'm kind of moving on to the next question, and Helena, you'll kick us off with that. But what led you to your current position? Because I know we got the opportunity to chat a little bit earlier about your history in education, but if you could talk a little bit more about that.
What led me to this position was I was working for New Hanover County Schools. And I'm one of those late bloomers in life. I got my bachelor's degree in my 50s. I raised 2 boys and they went to college, and then finally took care of myself as far as education goes. But once I was done, I'd always worked as a teacher's assistant and got my degree. I had been working with a student that I had at school, doing direct care with her through the Autism Society after school. And going into the office, I learned more about the staff. I learned a lot more about the organization. I was aware of a nationwide organization of the Autism Society, but not of the particular business here in Wilmington. But once I learned more about them, I knew I wanted to become part of that organization because they are so client focused. Everything that we do, it's always in the best interest of our families and our participants. This is the most supportive team I've ever been with throughout my career. I've had several different schools that I've been in. I've also worked on the state level for the state of West Virginia. But I love the Autism Society. Our CEO has started off in direct care, just like we did. And a lot of the people that I work with started off in the direct care position and then slowly were promoted through the company. So that is why I'm where I'm at this time. I do miss teaching and I do miss the students. But the hardest part about me leaving the school system was leaving the students. I still see them out all the time. But now I look at it as I'm able to help more people by hiring them the right matches and finding them the right caregivers.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'm going to start off with you, Selena. What can students do to make themselves marketable for your industry?
Well, UNCW actually has, if they wanted to be a behavioral health technician or if they wanted to go on to become a psychologist to be a behavior analyst, UNCW actually has a specific ABA minor. So you can, yeah, you can take classes to help boost your profile that way. You also can work as a behavioral health technician while you're in school, I believe. And so thanks, Helena, for nodding along. Yeah, so you don't have to have the degree to go and start gaining the experience. And then, like she said, if you have some of that earlier experience while you're in school, you can go on to climb the levels and get perhaps your master's in psychology to become a behavior analyst and work as a supervisor once you've graduated and still build that pocket because we know that's necessary.
Thank you. And then going on to Susan, what can students make themselves marketable for something in the teaching profession?
I wrote down two things. We got these questions ahead of time. So I wrote down two things. And one is, you guys might be freshmen, sophomore, juniors, I'm not sure, but just your resume is so important. Just do something to have on your resume. And I say this because I think about my own daughter who's graduating in a couple of months. And she was fortunate that she didn't have to always work lots of jobs. But there's got, when you apply for a job, the principal or the employer or the recruiter, myself, we have 100 resumes. And so what's going to be on yours that's going, to make it stand out? And I'm not talking about it having a picture of yourself on it or it be, bright pink, but actually the meat of what's going to make it stand out. Do something that's related to the profession you're trying to get into. If that's volunteering, our schools, unfortunately right now are not allowing volunteers because of COVID. But hopefully, for next year, that's going to be different. So if you're volunteering, it's also going to give you an opportunity to decide, do I really like this? Before it's too late to change your mind. Get into a school if you're thinking about the little ones in elementary school. Or if you are great at math or science and you want to be a tutor, a part-time tutor in a high school, to get a little bit of extra money and, again, something to put on your resume. And again, to see, is this really what I want to do for the next 40 years? Because I was a senior English high school teacher at one time. And so my kids couldn't wait to graduate. Like that was the end of everything. And I'm like, you guys need to be already thinking about what you're going to do for the next 4 years, because the next 4 years is going to somewhat determine the next 40 years. And that's a little bit daunting when you think about it. But to some degree, it's the truth. So dabble in things that are going to be on your resume and be a factor in, am I sure this is what I want to do? And another thing that I immediately thought of, because I see it often on the employee discipline side of things, is start watching what's on your social media right now, because employers do look. So just start being careful right away and right now about what you want the public perception of you to be on your public social media. And just always know that anybody who works with children, whether it's for us, the Autism Society, or anywhere else, when you work with children, you're held to a higher standard of conduct, really. So those were the two things that I thought of for that question.
Great. And thanks for that, especially with the resume piece, you all, the Career Center, we are always available to look at those, to help you with those. A little selfish plug there because I do think it's so important. So Susan already kind of talked a little bit about like volunteering, like how to get involved. So Helena, could you talk a little bit more about that? Like, does your organization take on volunteers, interns, or any type of part-time employees, and how could students maybe learn more ways to get involved with your organization?
Actually, we do not take interns at this time. I've brought that up, and that is something that we do have in the works as far as an internship. But something that we do offer, we do have volunteers. As Susan said, we're not taking people in right now because we are trying to keep contact in our centers as low as possible with others. But in the past, we have had some volunteer opportunities. As Susan has said, I mean, she really hit the nail on the head. Volunteer, 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 get that on your resume, even if you think it's something insignificant. I talked with a girl just yesterday, and I asked her, I said, do you have any experience working with people with autism? And she came back with, well, I don't have any, but my brother is, 10 years younger than me, and he has autism. That counts. I see that if you're living that day in and day out, to me, that counts. The more experience you have, the more I can pay you, and the more experience I can show when I go to set a pay rate. But there's that opportunity. You can also volunteer through walk runs. And there's so many things here in the Wilmington area. There's Miracle League, there's Special Olympics, all those things count. So I would encourage people to get experience through those things as well.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
And then Selena, what is something you know now about your college experience or your major or career path that you wish you would have known when you were a college student?
That there's a lot that I wish I would have known as a freshman. And one thing that I would say is talk to your professors. The university studies advisors, those entry-level advisors, they want to be helpful, but sometimes they don't have all of the answers you need. And talking to a professor can be more insightful, especially if you're thinking about going into that major, because they can give you different class suggestions that can set you on different paths. I knew about the ABA minor while I was at UNCW, but because of my freshman year, I didn't have enough time to complete that with the Spanish and psychology. And I really wanted to focus on Spanish. So I think just talking to professors is really helpful. And then ditto on the volunteer work. I didn't realize like how necessary internships would be as far as pursuing a career. So, and that is actually what led me more towards working with kids with special needs. I thought I was going to go be a Spanish interpreter when I graduated with a master's degree, and found out I needed another certification. So I stuck with working with kids with special needs, what I had done all through undergrad. And I find it to be really rewarding. So
Great, thank you. And then Susan, if you could provide your perspective on that as
I
well.
will, and I want to go backwards just a moment as well. Volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. But there are also, I think I did mention part-time tutor positions, after-school care positions, and also substitute teaching. Technically, the minimum requirement is a high school diploma. We do prefer some college and some experience working with children. But if you've got a schedule, where your classes are on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then you could sub on Tuesday, Thursday. You don't have to go wherever we send you. You get to pick. Like if you just want to do elementary school, or if you just want to do high school, you get to choose the days that you work and the schools that you work at. But that's a great way also to get experience and to make a little extra money. But advice, I would say make sure that you are choosing a major and a career path that you want, not that somebody else is telling you you need to do. And sometimes I guess probably at this point in your in your lives, that's going to be parents, and maybe peers. Because unfortunately, my daughter is going into education, and the number of people, even current educators, even some of her former teachers who she loved, are like, oh my God, you don't want to do that. And it makes her mad as fire. And I'm glad, because she knows that's what she wants to do. So make sure it's something you want to do for the next 40 years. You can change professions, but by and large, you stay kind of in the same realm. Make sure it's something you want to do and not other people telling you what you should do. And then there's, the other thing that I thought of is, do you want to make a lot of money, or do you want to be happy? And if you can have both of those things, that's amazing. But the education field, you're not going to be rich monetarily, but you're certainly going to change lives and have those other gratifications and rewards. So you want to make money or you want to be happy, and it's not an either or all the time. But being happy in the long run is a lot better. And like I said, I'm old, I can tell you that.
Thank you. And then kind of just to wrap up, because I know we have like about 2 minutes, but I'll start with Helena. But what other types of jobs or industries are you aware of besides your own that would give people the opportunity to still work with children?
There's quite a large field of different things that you can do, besides education, which I love and I miss. There's other things that you can do. Always look at those specialties that are involved with education, OT, PT, some of the new emerging, and I'm sorry, I should be more specific, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language. But I have a lot of people now who are emerging with careers with music therapy and with play therapy and art therapy. Those are new. And those are things that are starting to become more popular as people learn more about them. Looking back on my own career, there are so many things that you can do. One of my favorite things that I did was when I worked for the state of West Virginia, as far as changing the quality of education that was being offered to the students in West Virginia. And I worked with the governor's cabinet for several years doing that, different standards that we wrote for teachers to, as goals, as benchmarks to work up to. And that was part of working to change legislation, that type of thing. It can be something as simple as starting your own type of agency where you teach acceptance. Biddy and Bose is a great organization and a great example. Mrs. Wright has opened something that gives people with special needs the opportunity to work. So that would be another place. People are always screaming to fill positions that work with kids as far as agencies go. I spoke with a UNCW person the other day that I am in the process of hiring, and she's human services. And she had a huge background in writing. And I asked her, I said, why are you a human services major? Why aren't you a writing major? And she said, because there weren't enough people to support me when I was having a difficult time in life. She says, I want to be that support person for other children. And I thought that was so admirable, that she had chosen that road so that she could help other children. But as far as, childcare providers do not get the recognition that they deserve. I think they have a hard job. They have the littles, they deal with the parents. And that foundation, that early childhood foundation, can make all the difference in a child's life. They have that solid early childhood. There's no stopping them. You give them a love of reading, you give them a love of school, those type of things, of education, camp counselors. There are so many careers to explore working with children. But, the sky's the limit. and use your imagination and think of the things that you love and try to incorporate those things into a job. You know, if you love music, music therapist, you know, just look at those things.
Great, thank you. And students, if there's any questions that you like wanted to hear a response from another panelist and they didn't go, just know that if you go into the breakout rooms with them, you're more than happy to ask them if they could answer some of those questions. But with that, we're a little bit past 1:30, so we're gonna go ahead and open up the breakout rooms in just a few, like in just a minute. With that, students can see the breakout rooms at the bottom if you click on like breakout sessions, and you actually can like choose which breakout rooms you would like to attend. If you're having any issues with like self-selecting into a room, you can just hang back and Darby, our tech support, will be able to manually put into those rooms. You also have the opportunity to bounce around between the different rooms, and you can also leave whenever you want. You also don't even have to join a breakout room if you're not interested, but it is a great opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about the different organizations that are represented today and ask more personal questions. And again, you'll have about like 10-ish minutes or 10 to 12 minutes right now to kind of start that process. The last thing I do want to notice or do want to highlight is that we do have additional, so you want to like presentations and panels this week, and you can kind of see the schedule here. There is also a link for all of the sessions down here. We really appreciate all of you coming today. Again, it's really exciting for us to still be able to provide you know, some insight, especially for those of you who might not be sure what your next steps are. But with that, I will go ahead and have Darby open up the breakout rooms, and you all are more than welcome to choose which ones you would like to enter. And thank you to our panelists. You all are awesome and were very helpful.
Thank you. Jackie, we still see your screen. I don't know if if you have to unshare your screen for us to see how to get in our breakout room.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't see that.
There should have been a button at the bottom that said join breakout room.
Did not pop up.
If you
No.
click more,
There it is.
there you go.
Oh, yes, more, and then the breakout rooms button.
There we go.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I'm still lost. I don't see more.
You don't see more? Okay. Stacy, can you which one would you like to go to, Madeline?
Can I go to the one with the Susan?
Susan? Sure. It says, did it send you? There we go. There we go. Okay.
Cool.
Oh
Well,
my goodness.
we have 4 people with Susan, which doesn't.
Oh yeah, hold on.
surprise me.
Stop recording. Stop recording.